Hello and welcome to Telegraph Studios. I'm ALASTAIR Greener and today we're discussing risk and fraud prevention. Morning.
Morning, ALASTAIR.
So we hear all of these plenty of scary stories about financial transactions, but at the same time we've never felt more comfortable with them. So what is the actual truth? Are we more secure or not?
The reason we feel more comfortable is because banks are making payment processes more accessible and more convenient for us. So the physical process of money coming out of our account is very simple these days. The fact of the matter is that behind that simplicity in the process, there is a constant conflict going on between banks, financial institutions, and people trying to perpetrate fraud. So fraud isn't increasing, but neither is it decreasing. It is just changing.
From what we've been discussing today, would you agree that actually the balance is tipping towards damage control and away from prevention?
Prevention is the prime purpose, but that leads to damage control. Visa have done a study recently which says that if a fraudulent transaction of £100 is passed, there is more than £200 of effort involved in the reporting processes and the analysis processes and the explanation processes of having to explain why that fraud was perpetrated. So there is a cost of not having the appropriate systems in place. But the most damaging potential threat, financial threat to a bank is the damage to its reputation. The idea that the general public can understand that there has been a large-scale breach at a certain bank that could cause all sorts of damage to the reputational value of that organisation.
Talk me through the process. What's actually going to happen?
The process that we have as BPCs, it's a consultative process because, as I've already explained to you, different banks will have different requirements. Different banks in different markets will be subject to different types of attacks. Each bank will have a different composition in terms of their payment transactions between internet, mobile, and the conventional channels of ATMs and point of sale devices. So the first thing we need to do is we need to sit down and we need to understand the balance of those channels, and we need to understand the known threats, the threats that have already been seen in terms of frauds perpetrated through those channels. What we then do, and this is also regional specific, is we bring rules and techniques and processes that we've used in other banks, and we test those rules and techniques in those banks, and then we adapt those rules and techniques for the specific requirement of that new customer. So it's very much a process which is driven by the specific requirements of the organisation that we're dealing with.
That sounds like a very in-depth process. And I can imagine some MDs of companies and financial institutions are thinking that actually I'm a bit concerned about how much this is going to interrupt my day-to-day operation. So what is that impact going to be?
The impact in terms of system availability, the impact in terms of how the bank systems appear to customers is zero. We can run up a fraud management system in parallel with existing operations, and nobody needs to see any disruption of normal operation availability for core payment systems. However, you do need the people from the fraud department, from the risk department in the bank to concentrate and to work with us in a collaborative way to identify the fraud that a bank could be susceptible to, and to help us share that knowledge so we can build the solutions. Frankly, the managing director should have a business case in his mind for investing in these kinds of things, and factored into that should be the time and effort that he puts into it, and that should be weighed against his issue, which is undoubtedly the cost of fraud to his business.
There's no doubt that these attacks are going to carry on into the future. The methodologies are going to change, but let's look at the trends. How do you see the trends towards risk and fraud prevention over the next, say, 3 to 5 years? What are we going to see?
What we're going to see will vary country by country on a global basis. For example, there are still many developing countries where electronic commerce, the process of payments via the internet, is still emerging. For example, in Jordan, a country that we serve, there's recently been a 30% increase in their volume of internet transactions, card not present transactions, so that will increase. In the more mature world, there is a large growth in mobile transactions. So I saw some statistics recently which suggests in the developed world, mobile transactions will be more than 20% of all transactions by next year. So we're seeing those developments. We talked previously about alternative payment mechanisms. They will grow, they will rise, they will pose new threats, they will impose new requirements on banks to respond to those.
Well, it's been fascinating to see a light being shed on this amazing world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.